Hi, Joshua.
Hello.
Tell me, when did you first start thinking about war?
I started thinking about war at a very young age. The most specific event I can remember is when I was a child seeing a movie called The Day After, and it was a made-for-television movie about what would happen if the events from the Cold War came to a head, and there was a nuclear apocalypse. And the movie was very visually compelling, as well as emotionally compelling, and sort of showed what would happen to human beings around the world should the powers that be decide to launch a full-scale nuclear attack. And I came away with that with a sort of understanding of that the powers that be were sort of living in a different reality than I was. That the chance of risking everyone's life on your worldview was had been appropriated by some in a worldview in which we cannot all share. Otherwise, we would all be obliterated.
So you became aware of a different group of people that were operating sort of had different values about war.
Yeah, I realized that there was a system of power in which war meant something different to the people who would live and die in it. That the people who waged it had an ideological system in which it was a win-lose game, in which it was a sort of binary yes-no game field, and the world was that to them, and to us it was our actual lives.
So do you think that system that you became aware of still exists today?
Oh, certainly. The system has always existed. It has existed throughout time. Their wars historically have never been very generous in their reasoning. I mean, of course, you can go back to tribal things and prehistoric sort of things and look at man, and perhaps there were wars over territories and resource stuff that actually kept people alive. But in the modern world, since the time of civilization, Sumeria, Egypt, Rome, Europe through the Middle Ages, and the Western world since then, and more modernly, as the East and China and those countries become major players, there are always people who have in their best interests, as the financiers of these worlds, to do whatever it takes to make sure that their worldview prevails.
What is at stake for them to make sure their worldview prevails?
Well, unfortunately, there's not as much at stake for them as there is for us. At stake for them is basically a win-lose the game sort of thing. If they don't install their sort of banking system in every country, or if they're not able to set sort of resource pricing and commodities and all that, then they lose in a very small way. They lose some money, some prestige, some power, but in the real sense, they have nothing to lose in the way that we do. Like, we're the pieces in the game, and they treat us as disposable. We are pawns upon the board to be moved aside in order to open up a better move. So,
When you talk about we, I have an understanding of what you mean, but when you talk about they, who is they?
they would be the people who finance the world. Money is power and money is control. The people who finance the world have always been the bankers. And that's not to say that there's something specifically alien or reptilian or demonic about banking, but the people who seek power understand that it is through the money systems that they will be able to do so. And once they enter that sort of ambition to do that, and once they set upon a, nepotistic sort of line of hereditary and dynasty and passing down that to their children, it lasts for a long time. And we've seen this historically, people who have created dynasties from their other families. And it's very obvious, just understanding history, that what we have are banking dynasties who run the world behind things.
And do you think this is a conspiracy to think about these banking dynasties? I mean, is it a conspiracy theory?
I think to look at it as a conspiracy theory is to ignore thousands of years of history and basic human perspective and understanding. I think to look at it as something that's kooky and far out there is to ignore the very truth that we understand about ourselves and the world that we live in. We watch television shows about feudalism and family intrigue and all that, and we understand that these things happen. And we refuse to believe this happening in the real world. But it is happening in the world, it's happening in the world we live in. And if we don't come to some kind of understanding about it, and if we don't come to some kind of agreement and try to stop it, then we shall forever be ruled by it.
Thanks, Joshua.
Thanks, Amy.